I grilled my brother-in-law's ribs at the reunion and won the cook-off. So I need to back up a little, because this didn't start at the reunion. This started like 2 years ago at my sister's birthday dinner, when Derek, that's my brother-in-law, been married to my sister Cassie for 6 years, pulled me aside in the kitchen and told me, completely unprompted, that I probably shouldn't bother entering the family cook-off this year because he was finally going to do ribs and quote, nobody's beating that. I asked him what made him so sure. Either you know what you're doing or you don't. I let it go. Didn't say anything. I'd been doing the cook-off for 4 years at that point, and I'd placed twice but never won, and Derek knew that. He'd made sure to remind me at both Thanksgivings and one Easter in between. Derek's thing is that he grew up in Texas and he has never once let anyone in our family forget it. Like, we get it. You're from Texas, you've eaten brisket. Every time food comes up at any gathering, it loops back to Derek telling some story about a pit master he knows or a joint outside Austin that changed his life. My wife started doing this thing where she kicks me under the table when it's coming, just so I'm ready. The cook-off is my mother-in-law Patricia's thing. She started it maybe 8 years ago. Totally casual at first, just people bringing their best dish. But over time, it got a whole bracket and a judging panel, and this wooden spoon trophy that my father-in-law made in his garage and takes extremely seriously. There are categories: sides, mains, desserts. The mains category is where it gets competitive. Derek won mains 2 years ago with brisket. He talked about it for the rest of that year. He framed the little paper ribbon my father-in-law gave out that year. Actually framed it. It's hanging in their hallway. So this past spring, about 3 months before the reunion, I decided I was going to do ribs. Not because of Derek, I want to be clear about that. I'd been watching a lot of stuff online about low and slow technique and I wanted to try it. I bought a smoker. Nothing crazy, just a mid-range offset smoker, but I spent a lot of time learning it. I did test runs on weekends. My wife and our neighbors ate a lot of ribs in May and June. I got the timing down. I found a glaze that did something really specific at the end of the cook that I was genuinely proud of. I didn't tell anyone I was doing ribs. My wife knew, obviously, but I asked her not to mention it. The reunion is always the last Saturday in July out at Patricia and Gary's place. People start arriving around noon. I got there at 6 in the morning to get the smoker going. Gary came out in his robe around 6:30 with 2 coffees and stood there watching the smoke come off it and said, "You're serious this year?" I said, "Yeah." He nodded and went back inside. Derek showed up around 10 with a cooler and his own setup, and that's when things got interesting. He walked over, saw my smoker, saw the racks already on there, and his whole face did this thing, just for a second. Then he smiled and said, "Ribs, huh? Bold choice." I said, "Thanks." He said, "Mine have been marinating since Wednesday." I said, "Good." He stood there for a second like he was waiting for me to say something else, then went back to his setup. My sister Cassie came over around 11 and whispered, "He's been stress texting me all morning." I asked, "What about?" She said, "Just, you'll see." The judging started at 2 p.m. Patricia had 3 judges this year. Her friend Donna from church, my uncle Rich, who has strong opinions about everything, and my cousin Becca's husband who used to do food service and everyone considers him the credible one. Derek went first in the mains category. His ribs looked good, I'll give him that. Nice color, good presentation. The judges each took a piece. There was nodding. Derek was doing that thing where he stood with his arms crossed watching them chew. Then they got to mine. I watched Donna close her eyes. That was the first sign. Uncle Rich said, "Oh, that's different," in a way that didn't sound like a complaint. The food service guy put his pen down, which felt significant. They scored everything on little cards. Patricia collected them, added them up, and called everyone over. Derek won the presentation score. I want to be fair about that. His looked better on the board and I know it, but overall I won mains. Patricia handed me the wooden spoon, and everyone clapped, and my wife hugged me, and I looked over at Derek. He was already walking toward the drink cooler. Didn't come back for a few minutes. When he did, he came over, shook my hand and said, "Glaze did something weird." What was in it? I said, "Texas secret." He stared at me for a second. Then he laughed, kind of short, like it came out before he could stop it. He hasn't mentioned Texas once since the reunion.